Elizabeth survived by her two greatest loves, her work and you, her wife, Jill.
So many questions that I have for you. I rarely ask in a more kind of normal movie environment
Yeah.
because this is such an unusual, exceptional film that it brings out all of these details that I normally don't think would have interesting answers. And I'll give you an
hmm
example. Like
Yes.
when you read this script,
Yes.
um, there's not even a lot of dialogue in this script, and yet
Nope.
there's so much said. So, what was that experience like for you when you're first taking in these script pages?
Well, just that the co-writer and the director, who's the other writer, had put in so much work. I mean, the rules of possession are so clear, right? Like
Mm.
the Elizabeth cannot speak unless she's asked a question, right? So that becomes more and more evident throughout the film in terms of like the penultimate scene when, you know, asked a question, Jack can't respond because he's actually no longer Jack, even though they thought that Elizabeth had left them. So there's just so much thought and care taken into that. And I think it kind of has to be because you're dealing with a three-hander told by two people, right? Like Vicky and I play the same third character together. You're talking about very, very tough stuff like domestic violence, violence against children. And it's a chamber piece. It's a play, really, on in a movie. So because of that, I think the dialogue is paramount. Like you have to be so clear about what you're saying, why you're saying it, and what you want the audience to be left feeling. And because of that, every word was so specific, right? Like it was a Sorkin-esque kind
Mm.
of experience in the sense that you can't stray from the established language because there's so much behind it. If you tip that over, then another scene doesn't make sense as Elizabeth.
I even wanted to ask you what you felt the significance of the characters' names in comparison to the title are, because obviously
Mhm.
One Up the Hill and the characters Jack and Jill are,
Yeah, the
there's that
nursery rhyme.
obvious
Yes.
nursery rhyme connection. But to you, did that evoke something else for you?
To be honest, the whole kind of analogy of Jack and Jill went up the hill in the nursery rhyme, I didn't think about while shooting the film. There wasn't a correlation in terms of my process playing Jack. I rehearsed a long, long time for a year, in fact, in the lead up to playing the role with the director, and that didn't come up because it was about creating something that sort of went beyond the nursery rhyme, right? Like the nursery rhyme is just one device in many devices that are employed in the film, narratively speaking. And as an actor, I would never get involved in those things unless they directly pertain to my character or another character that I'm playing, like Elizabeth in this situation. So no, to answer your question, I didn't really get tied up in that at all, and that wasn't part of my process for
Well,
this.
and you said the magic word of rehearsal too, because again, I wouldn't normally dive into like what's the rehearsal like, but for a film like this, it
Yes.
seems so critical. Uh,
Yeah.
so you said that you were working with them for about a year ahead of time?
Yeah, I was working with Samuel for a year, and then we arrived in Christchurch to rehearse Elizabeth with Vicky and I right before we started shooting. And the plan was to rehearse for a week, do some physical work, figure out how we're going to play Elizabeth. Um, and after a day and a half, we called it quits because for two reasons. One was we didn't want to use any of that special kind of energy that we wanted to save it for the shoot. And secondly, both Vicky and I came to the table saying we didn't view it as a supernatural film. We viewed it as a film where two people created their antagonist or their antagonizer in order to deal with their trauma. And
Hmm.
because of that, Elizabeth didn't need to be the same portrayal in each of our performances, because she was a manifestation of how Jack saw her or how Jill saw her, or how any person watching it sees their abuser can become a part of them. They can love and hate them at the same time. It's far more complex. And I think because of that, we needed to take a step back and go, I don't need to match Vicky's performance. She doesn't need to match mine. We just need to know Jack and Jill as our core personalities, because that's where Elizabeth is coming from.
And I was doing like as much research as I possibly could on this, as I was so fascinated by it. And I heard you say a really interesting thing at Toronto that
Yes.
your access to the character for both of you came through smell?
Yeah, it's just sort of totally uncanny. But when I work with a character, I create a perfume or a cologne for that character. That's just, I work with scent because it's something the audience doesn't see, but it affects the performer and the crew and everyone that can smell it. And then it turns out we arrive for that rehearsal, and Vicky goes, I do the same thing. And she goes, I actually brought a scent for Elizabeth. So we both wore Elizabeth's scent when we were playing Elizabeth, but then I would wear the Jack scent when I was playing him, and she would wear the Jill scent when she was playing her. And it's super intoxicating, right? Like sensory memory is so tied into smell, and it's so evocative and powerful and overwhelming. And so every day in the, hair and makeup trailer, or you're getting changed in a costume or whatever, you spray it all over your costume, over your things, over your items in the house. It lingers there. Mine was an oil, so it really stays in my skin. It's like an oud, it's really powerful. So it was really cool to arrive, and Vicky was like, I work with scent as well. I was like, what? I have anyway, it was great.
That, that's basically the coolest thing I've ever heard. I love that. I've never heard anyone say that because I've heard I had down to ask you about any kind of music or any sort of way to bring yourself into that world other than this incredible location. But then the
Mhm.
smell thing hit me and I was like, holy shit. Um,
Yeah, the smell is the way in for me.
Can you describe the difference between scents with this character and maybe even like another noteworthy character that you played, like even your character in Elvis or anything like that? Like, is there a difference that you could talk about?
Well, I think like anything, a perfume or a cologne is something that someone would choose based on a whole multitude of reasons. So it's like any character choice, like why would my character do X, Y, Z and picking a cologne. So as an example, I have a scent in Gus Van Sant's film that I have coming out, the character I play there. And the character I play there is a real guy. And after he was held hostage and then released, which is at the end of the film, he wrote a memoir. And the memoir, he goes on to say that he was an alcoholic, and he was sober, and he went back into this sort of avenue of despair. So for me, all I knew that I needed to build was the smell of brandy, which is what he loved, into the perfume as a reminder of his past. He ended up getting sober later in life. So the perfume that I found has heavy sense of brandy. He was a soft father, so there's floral, kind of more effeminate sense, even though he was like this epitome of masculinity in the Midwest in the 1970s and whatever else. I'm like, well, that's all bullshit. I kind of got some insight into what he was really like. And I think, so it's just mixing those ideas and concepts into a smell can be so powerful. And Jack was the same. This was a campfire kind of oud, like more masculine sense, but then tying in his effeminate nature and his creativity, there was again more floral. I love the contrast of that in a smell, in a perfume, of smelling at first a sort of heavier scent, and then smelling something a lot lighter and more nuanced, I think is my favorite sense as a person. So with characters, I try and find the contrast in them, right? Like Billy in Stranger Things is perceived to be just a bully, but what does he have to go home and endure with his family? I love the contrast. I only look for characters with contrast in themselves. Like they don't make sense. They're a sort of paradoxical kind of oxymoron in a way.
We're really going to miss you on the season of Stranger Things, by the way. Speaking of Billy, is there anybody in the cast that you can text and with like an ask a spoiler, like who's likeliest to respond?
There definitely is. I wouldn't, but there is. I'm sure I could message Millie or Sadie or someone like that. But I was saying to someone before, I'm actually really excited for it to end, not because I want it to end, but because I know that the writer, director, creators, the Duffer Bros, have so many other awesome ideas that they haven't had the bandwidth to explore. And I'm really excited for fans of theirs to see their next shows. And with this final season coming out, I know that it's the opportunity for them to work on that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This was
Awesome.
really interesting. The movie was.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, take care of yourself and thanks for the chat.